Yes or no? The things we say not allowed on YouTube, but we say it anyway.
That's right. It's the Reality Czars podcast with Nate and Thomas, the paranoid motherfucking American. Come cackle with us, but be warned, it's gonna get real spicy. So buckle up for the truth, y'all. This is the Reality Czars.
Reality Czars. Oh, you know who we are. Oh, you know who we are. We might be retards. We are Reality Czars.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm your only host tonight, Nate. Thomas, I think Thomas is working right now.
Yeah.
Much love, Thomas. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, Thomas is back to the 9 to 5 grind. And
yeah, it's crazy, man. But you know, it's okay.
Dude. It was an era when Thomas was like podcasting 24 hours a day and doing all kinds of wild and crazy stuff. And Thomas still does, but he's back to the grind, man.
Yeah, you both. I get that. It's very important, you know. But yeah, good to be with
what's
you.
Funny, dude, is me and him like switched because now I'm trying to.
Now
do
you're
this
going full. Yeah, you're riding the bull, which is good. I'm glad because I always like your show. I feel like you should be, you know, all over the place all the time. And I know things come in waves and everything, but you've got like some pretty great interviews with some pretty interesting people. I know you did like David Icke and everything else. I mean, you know, I don't think everyone knows like the qualia and the quanta of qualia of Reality Czars, but it's one of my favorite shows. I'm glad you exist.
I appreciate you, sir. I'm glad you exist. You're one of my very favorite people on the entire internet ever. I would say in real life, but we've never met yet. Dude, I was thinking about that. Somebody asked me, like, how many people have you met in real life that you've had on your show? Not many.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy, right? Yeah, I looked out with like half of them, maybe. I don't know. I have to start counting up. But like, there's definitely a lot of people where I'll go see them at some point in the time of space, and then I'll meet them and we'll be like, oh, wow, we're like friends that it's good to see you again, but we're meeting for the first time, you know? It's like, it's been so long since I've seen you, but I've never seen you. It's very weird, you know, for sure.
Well, dude, this is like a weird medium where like it's long form. It's not like watching television because like you get a very polished version of the person. It's kind of fake, but on like, especially long form podcasts, and especially with weirdos like us that are just like this 24 hours a day. I'm no different now than I am like if you meet me at the grocery store. I'm just as obnoxious and autistic, and it's a great thing. And I people actually feel like they really know you, which is really cool.
Right. If you have a long enough period of time, it's kind of hard to like shake your variability if you're sitting there without any cuts. But I think also, you know, it comes in waves. Like it's like good to have energy on a show, and a lot of times you can be exhausted. It's weird. I'll go places sometimes be completely exhausted, and I'll like apologize to people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have the energy to rant for 2 hours. And people are like, no, actually, that's way better. That's nice. Because yeah, if you do podcasts all the time, then you think that's how you're supposed to talk all the time, and you probably shouldn't. You probably should listen as much as you talk, you know, or one should rather. I should listen more.
I'm trying to get better at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because people are like, oh man, you're a podcaster. That's why you talk like that. You know?
I don't know if the podcaster is made or if what came first? Obviously, the obnoxious, nonstop talking person came first, but I think that's how we found podcasts, and that's why we do so well at them, because this just comes naturally, unfortunately. This just doesn't stop, so.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes it does. Like I try to get myself into uncomfortable conversations about things I don't know a lot about, like more and more and more. Like I know Adam, I do base AF with him, and he noticed this. Like a lot of the shows that I'm comfortable in, I'll talk more. But if there's a situation I don't really know what's going on, or if someone knows more about a subject, then that forces me to like try to listen more, or you know. And it's weird also. I've noticed this because for a while I was like, I'm not going to watch other podcasts. I'm only going to do my own. And because of that, because I thought this would be important to make sure I'm not just taking other people's material or something. But you don't. Really what happens is you end up thinking, being inspired, which is a great thing, and having a reaction to it. And I'm now going back and watching a bunch of podcasts I haven't seen for like a year, like some of my best friends' channels and things. I'm going back and watching their thing. I'm like, wow, look at all this crazy stuff. Well, I was so self-absorbed with what I'm doing. other friends of mine have been also doing really cool things as well. You know, I like Ancient Historia. Our friend Luke, he's got a great series on Tartaria that I've been listening to a lot of his episodes of, and I highly recommend. Right, and again, like you guys, you got your really good episodes with some pretty interesting interviews. So it's important to try to listen to everybody and see what everyone else is up to, because like we're all kind of doing things now, which is great.
Dude, it really is a weird place, dude. Like, if you would have gotten into this like 10 years ago, like there was almost no I don't like to use the word competition, but let's just say the market is flooded. Everybody's got a podcast, but it's kind of cool though too. And it's yeah, I enjoy it, dude, because the more content there is, there's more for me to enjoy too. Yeah, I love listening to my friends' shows and getting their perspectives on different stuff. And that's the interesting thing, though, is that everybody has a different perspective and they're covering different stuff or from a different angle. And I have some really cool, smart friends. So.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess that's what's kind of interesting to me is what kind of a weird world did we create now where I don't have time to watch shows that from people I don't know. It's like basically everyone I know are watching each other. So it's like everyone knows everyone making all the material. That's the social media aspect of podcasting is really interesting. Who expected this?
Yeah, dude. No, I enjoy it. Yeah, it is. That is my social circle, I guess you could say, is other fellow podcasters, other content creators, and it's been kind of fun, dude. It is a weird little community, and
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and so like I go into my recommendations, and a lot of them are just my friends now, and that's like a nice feeling. So,
heck yeah, dude.
What's
new in your world, dude?
Oh, I wanted to ask you first though. Didn't you do like a
Yeah.
Bigfoot thing? Do you want to tell me a bit more about the Bigfoot thing you were doing?
Dude, I'm doing a lot of Bigfoot things. Yeah, I have an awesome. If people want to go check it out, I think we have a brand new YouTube channel. I don't know. It's called the Anomaly Hunters. We have a new something out, but we're constantly well, we're about to go on a big one. We found like this old ghost town / abandoned train mine or like train accident. It's supposed to be super fucking haunted. And we're gonna go check it out. I think we're gonna go camping out there and try to go communicate with some ghosts.
Wow.
We've got a team. We got an awesome team. My buddy Ben and my buddy Isaac. And we just go out in the middle of nowhere and we have some fun. That's what we do.
Do you have any sort of like weird ideas about why there are maybe like anomalous space-time places where there might be like ghosts or, you know, big like Sasquatch, like some sort of bipedal hominid that's outside of time? Like, why do you think this exists? Why is that something that you think could happen?
Dude, why does it happen is a really weird question, and I'm not totally sure, but it definitely is something that is happening. And yeah, dude, I mean, to explain why the phenomena is bizarre. Like it's a harder question to wrap your mind around, but it is something that seems to be occurring not only maybe interdimensionally, but also through like time loops and different things like that.
Right.
There is this bizarre, like actually we were talking about that the other day on one of our shows. Is like there's this instant that is like documented where this kid talks about, well, it's secondhand, whatever, but this kid talks about, he's an adult. He talks about when he was a child, he like goes to the kitchen first thing in the morning and he goes to get some water. He's thirsty and he sees this giant, like hulking black thing. And it scares the living crap out of him. And this thing like yells and makes this crazy noise. And he goes running and he's like, oh my God. And I saw a ghost, whatever this is, this monster. And then years later, he still is thinking about this. And he's in the same kitchen and it's an early morning. And he sees this little small black fuzzy outlined thing. And he screams and yells. And he realizes it was him. And that he met him. And he's haunting himself, and he saw himself in the future and then met him and did the scream that freaked him out as a kid. There's so many bizarre things like that, or these wonderful stories about people like, you know what, it happens in Scotland a lot, like near Glasgow and places like that. You're walking around and all of a sudden you turn a corner and everybody's in bell bottoms. People have the big poofy hair. You walked into the 1970s and you're like, what the hell is going on right now? These weird little time spaces,
diagonal alley or whatever. Diagonally. Yeah. This whole thing, like my dad talked about that happening at some point in Scotland when he was there in the 60s or 70s, that he remembers literally like 6 weeks disappeared. He went and he was like dancing with these like hippie chicks that turned out to be like fairies, and then they just 6 weeks disappeared when he got out of that, like out of a dancing circle. And these are very traditional things that happen in Celtic fairy lands, but it is weird that it's something to do with like a time warp or something that's sort of interdimensional, like you said, right? And it's something I hadn't thought about before too much with Bigfoot, but it seems pretty logical. Why are we seeing Bigfoot in these state parks which are fairy preserves? You've got like fairy treaties from Roosevelt in order to keep certain land safe. But what are these land? I mean, these are places where weird anomalous crap happens. Like there was a story I heard about this girl in Yosemite. She goes missing for 20 days. She thinks she's missing for a day. While she's lost in the woods, she meets some lady who's also missing. She helps her overnight. Then the next day they find the little girl, but she can't find the lady who was helping her. Turns out it wasn't just overnight. It's been like a month. And they ask her about the lady who helped her, and the little girl describes a woman who looks exactly like a woman who went missing in Yosemite 20 years earlier or something like that. And so it's like, these are interesting to me because I've always heard them like, okay, whatever, these are campfire ghost stories. But then you're thinking about it, what is the effect happening in this story? It's some sort of weird space-time, interdimensional space-time phenomenon. And that's interesting, right?
And the time thing is interesting and actually makes me think of Narnia, which shout out.
Yeah.
But dude, it is interesting to me because like the first thing that I thought of when you were talking about your father going to dance with these ladies for like 6 weeks or whatever it was, I'm just glad he made it out, because exactly like that little girl said, that lady that was missing, right? The one that helped her, she went missing and maybe is assumed dead, but she just wasn't able to get out herself.
Yeah,
like
right?
She's still in the void in this different, or maybe she chose to stay, dude. I think about that a lot, and I think about like the missing 411 and the deep underground cave system connection, also the Sasquatch sighting connection, all of those correlating spots in those hotspot areas. It is interesting to me, dude, and I like, people have like asked me those silly questions, like if you were approached by Sasquatch in one of those places and you were given an ultimatum, like would you stay? Would you go down to the deep underground cave system with Sasquatch if you knew you could never come back?
Well, so that's like the questions. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Oh, go for it, Ben. I'm just saying,
No,
when you have kids, you have to say no. But
I know. I've been thinking a lot about.
Man,
I've been thinking a lot about Homer Simpson recently. It's like when you find out like Homer Simpson's like 36 years old in the first episodes, so it's scary because when you think of yourself as Bart and then you become Homer, and yeah, there's things if you all of a sudden attach yourself to like the lives of other people, but that is because of continuity, and you're saying, okay, well, I have to be there with these people. How many? I mean, I didn't watch it yet, but I want to see the Buzz Lightyear Out of Time movie where he gets cucked by some like biracial lesbian couple because he can't raise his own family. I think that actually probably is meaningful. We need to see that. But the idea that space-time isn't just it is non-linear. So it's not that this is a different linear time inside of the state parks. It's different than that. It's that we are in a linear time, and when you get outside of the linear time, you're outside of what. So wherever the past is where the future is, because these are the alpha and the omega point. So these particular places, these state parks, might not exist in linear time, and things happening in the future are affecting the past, and the past are affecting the future, which explains that whole alien ant farm idea that people are living underground, under state parks and under cities because they don't want to impact, a butterfly effect or something like that. But of course, in a state park, if more and more and more of the land is being preserved or kept away from other people so that they can't interact with it, but more and more people who go there end up missing. And there's, again, like weird phenomena where, hey, there he is. We thought you were working.
There's the man himself. Holy shit.
I am working. Don't tell anyone that I'm not.
Dude, he's working really hard right now, but he's also working really smart. So that's the way to do it. Yeah. We're talking about space-time Bigfoot, right? So the idea that all of these weird ghost stories and everything like that, they're all about space-time, like, so we just mentioned the little girl who goes missing in Yosemite, and then she gets helped by some lady overnight, and then they find the girl. She's like, it's not a day later, it's a month later, and the girl that helped her, the woman that helped her, is like looks like a woman who was missing 20 years earlier. There was another one in North Carolina where a boy goes missing in a state park, and they look for him everywhere. They can't find him. Like a year later, they find his boots right at the beginning of where everyone were circled around looking originally, when they all met to go looking for him, and they just find his boots, but they're brand new, they're perfectly clean. They're like, oh my god, what? And then a year later they find his notebook and his empty canteen, and over the next like 15 years, just items appear every once in a while there, never the boy himself. Finally they find his backpack, brand new looking, from like the 80s or late 70s, brand new, undusty, just right there, sitting there all ready to go, like left there with like jelly beans and things from the 80s, you know.
Is Bigfoot just taunting the parents at this point?
I mean, I don't think it's Bigfoot's fault. I think it's that Bigfoot lives where fairy preserves are, and these fairy preserves, what is a fairy? It's something, it's a personhood that's outside of time. So this is like Nazi Tibet, outside of time, like the Jason Giorgiani talking about like the out of time people. What is this, like the singularity event, right? So in 2045 or 2030 45, something like that, we're gonna hit something with AI and technology and singularity and these nuclear powered computer cities that Trump is helping us build, you know, haha. And eventually there's going to be a group of people that are just outside of causality, because time is this thing where if you do that, then this happens. But we're going to leave The Simpsons and enter the Family Guy of timelines where anything can happen. And Bigfoot is probably outside of time in these preserves because it's like ancient bipedal hominids that are living in the future, right? Because this is just not even, it's not a time sensitive zone, which makes so much sense about these scary
on that have talked about going to the astral world and meeting Bigfoot, and that he's there, and they're always in these places, and they're there to communicate with, and that they're not always in a physical plane, right? And that they're
well, it's like the upside down, right? Stranger Things, Will gets trapped in the upside down, which granted is probably a much crappier version of whatever we're talking about Bigfoot being in. But then like while he's in this upside down, he can do things and leave items that echo on our timeline, but he's in his completely own separate timeline. Are we just saying that there's like a more fun version of the upside down that Bigfoot lives in?
I think there's numerous versions, and it sucks if you get stuck in the upside down.
It probably sucks to some extent, but like this is also so where like Ingo Swann, right? This whole idea that every world that we talk about is just the world in a different timeline. So Mars is our past or our future. Maybe Mars is 1 billion years in the past, but it's Earth in the future that's gone back in time, and it's a reset world, right? So we see the destruction of the Earth as the concurrent version of Mars. But Ingo Swann did this whole CIA research in the late 70s and 80s that there are future singularity space Buddhist Bigfoot Nazis, you know, whatever, that traveled back in time a 250 million years and are living underground in Mars, right? So that to not mess with our timeline. I think that makes maybe some sense. And if, you know, again, like you're talking about non-local thought realms or thought fields, right? Like these kind of like data fields where like a meditation realm can exist. It's interesting that we're going to reach a point where technology makes it so anyone can do that, but probably thousands of years ago, like Buddhists or something, you know, like some kind of like ascended master was able to just meditate their way, or maybe some kind of genetically modified being that's a bipedal humanoid that can think their way to this Buddhist realm, right? Without any sort of technology.
Do you think that there's a chance in this same kind of line of thinking that CIA genetically invents a Bigfoot, and the second the Bigfoot pops out of that CIA lab, it's like, oh, I'm going 200,000 years into the past, so you can't catch me, and I'm going to live in this alternate dimension? Or just the fact that he can do that mean that he was there before the CIA was around to invent him?
Maybe like chicken or egg kind of thing, you know? Because it's like it's more like we're all on our timelines and there's something outside of time. So anyone who can ever get outside of that timeline, if the Buddhists can do it, if the CIA can do it, maybe the CIA have help, because I think once you get outside of the timeline, then you might have help, because you might have help or hindrances, because the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, they're either going to help you or they're going to harm you. And to do that, they're going to go back in time and either kill John Connor or Sarah Connor, right? They're going to go back and they're going to mess with your ancestor lines. And so maybe if that's the case, you know, like you made it in 2045, but they just say, okay, well, let's go back and like perform miracles to protect their ancestors so that they make it even more conveniently going back to 10,000 years, right? And so that's like that's why the CIA might be actually evolving us.
If I'm a CIA agent if I'm time cop and I can jump around in time the way that we're kind of describing, once I leave our conventional time concept and like construct, why come back? Like, what's the advantage of coming back into time?
So I feel like living in the desert underground in Mars after the apocalypse is kind of a bummer situation, you know? Like, so it's this, we talk about the Bush administration's $21 trillion new underground, not new, but underground cities that they have for bunkers and surviving the nuclear doomsday, right? You saw that article.
Well, mine's 22 billion, but whatever, we're not counting.
Well, 21 trillion, I think, was what the Bush administration said that they put towards these doomsday cities, but that's just during the Bush administration. So who knows what Obama did? You know, I'm sure that there's more money that's going into that. But if there are these super cities, and you have to imagine living in a bunker under a military dictatorship for centuries, I mean, that's not something that's necessarily the most liberating experience. So having certain zones on the earth which are protected from the butterfly effect, you know, inside of Yosemite or Yellowstone or Malaysia, these are places then that you could interact and still live in this world without living at this world, I mean, affecting this world.
How much validity do you give the chronovisor? How much of this do you think has been foreseen? And
what the hell is a chronovisor?
You don't know what the chronovisor is, dude? Okay, so it's this crazy like time thingamabob that you could look through, and it could show you all throughout time. Somebody invented it. I can't remember. They brought it to the Vatican. The Pope looked at it. He saw the future and was like, "Oh hell no!" And so he stuck it down in the catacombs, and he says, "You will be excommunicated if you ever play with it. If you ever talk about it.
No, dude.
You can't look at this thing again."
Are we talking like 1400s or like?
No, this is like the 20th century, right? This is the 80s, I think, right? So chronovisor, Vatican. This is Father Pellegrino Ernetti, who allegedly helped build the chronovisor. Yeah, this is a crazy story. So, like, you know, Jesuits and Benedictines working together to make this technology with Enrico Fermi, who allegedly helped build the chronovisor, won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1938.
Okay, yeah. Thomas is trying to throw us off. If somebody told me that Thomas was from outside of the time, like Thomas is ageless. Look at him.
He was Scottish left. Yeah.
He was one of the alchemists in the 1500s, and he still lives with us now.
I am the purple column. Yes.
Nice.
Thomas is trying to throw up. What's the chronovisor?
Well, now that I'm caught up, you originally were asking Andreas what he thought. Like, is it a real thing?
I think so.
It's in the basement of the Vatican. There we go. Yeah. I think it's possible, dude. I think because again, like we were saying here, is that I think that linear time only exists in our little bubble. And so I think there's ways to like look outside of our bubble and look back into like from the outsider's perspective into our bubble and see what's going to happen and what happened. And I don't know. It's a weird thing, dude. I give some of it credence. It depends on how crazy I am that day.
I mean, it is a completely crazy idea because like the chronovisor is like there's an antenna system that's supposed to pick up on dark matter. You know, it's something that can pick up on things you can't pick up on. And so the idea that in the 80s, you know, there already was technology that you could use for Project Looking Glass. It's going to be on your own faith to believe that works or not. I mean, I'm sure you're pretty open-minded, but also pretty skeptical of anything functional, right? From the CIA or from the Jesuits, right? But I mean, he said that he could see important historical events going back like thousands of years, and
he saw
see what's coming
crucified. I think, right? He saw, he went all the way back, and then went way to the future. I think where he said we were going to be destroyed by like nuclear weapons.
This actually sounds like a scene directly out of Altered States.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he doesn't have like a chronovisor. He goes through those exact sort of motions.
Yeah.
So we have somebody in the chat asking about the new Pope. They said it's going to be the Chinese with the black guy.
Yeah, Pope Leo.
Actually,
Pope
he just
Leo
got announced.
Yeah, the American.
We have first American Pope. Yep.
Yeah, this is a straight up. You need to watch that movie, The Young Pope, with Jude Law. I'm pretty sure, but I mean, I'm more afraid of an American Pope than I am of Trump Pope. I feel like American Pope is pretty scary. The idea of an American Pope, that's shady, man. That's some shady stuff right there. That's like I guess you can see the smirk in the Scottish Rite's face right now.
Elaborate. I want to know.
You guys are doing it. You run this. Thomas is in charge of picking the new Pope. You had to make sure.
Beyond a Roman Pope that basically has like more than one connection to the propaganda do lodge, right? Like what is an American bringing to the table that we haven't seen yet that makes you think that this could be something different?
I think you just said it though, like Freemasonry. I can see an American Freemasonic Pope, or a Pope adjacent to the CIA.
You're gonna open the door for us Catholics again, for the good grace of God.
I think that might be what's happening. I think it's. I honestly do. I don't know. We'll find out, but it would be pretty crazy. An American Pope.
To see a complete synergy between the Catholic sort of soiree of different idols. I'll just call them idols. And then just straight up Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Like for Scottish Rite Freemasonry to now openly utilize all of the Catholic upbringing that I've got. It would almost be like G.I. Joe and Star Wars universes getting together and making a kick-ass movie.
Dude, so what is his deal? Pope Robert Prevost, Pope Leo. They're going to call him Pope Leo.
Leo the 14th, I believe. Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Crazy. And then where's he from? He's from Chicago or Cincinnati?
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah. I was going to say Ohio, but yeah.
Dude. Well, because
We
Cincinnati
did a little
Catholics
deep dive into him this morning. We have a friend that Emily, shout out to you, Restore Christendom. She was on our show this morning, and we did a little deep dive into it.
This guy right here.
He looks Italian. Come on.
I mean, Chicago.
Just because you fly in Italian in Chicago doesn't mean you get to call him an American Pope.
So the mob pope. Is that what we're gonna do? I mean, what did you?
So. I mean, we can't really expect like a wasp pope, right? That would be pretty cool.
That's what I expect. Pope. I expect secretly it's secretly a wasp pope or like
he
a wasp.
Look like a wasp, bro. He does.
I mean, but who's the gray and the black pope? He might be a wasp.
The gray pope would have been the Franciscan choice. So that's what I was also trying to figure out. Is he a Benedictine or what kind of Catholic is?
I'm assuming he's a Jesuit.
Most of the time,
what kind of Catholic? What kind of American?
What flavor of Catholic are you? Let's see.
It used to be good enough to just be, but now it's like, no, you got to be Opus Dei or above. We don't.
Zero says he's a pepperoni flavored Catholic. I like that.
Pepperoni Pope.
Nice.
Pepperoni.
Order of St. Augustine. He's Augustinian Catholic, maybe.
Okay, I'm down with some Augustinian Catholics. The original Florida man, correct?
Yeah, right. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. So, what did you guys find out earlier? You said you did a show, like a breakdown with somebody about it.
I wish I had been paying more attention to it. I don't know. As soon as they started talking about Catholicism and the Pope, I'm like,
I'll look it up with Grok. Grok will tell us the truth. Yeah. So Robert Prevost was Augustinian. Yeah, he's Augustinian. Order of Augustine. Okay, so that's interesting.
I feel for you a little bit, Nate, because growing up Catholic at times, if I look back, it's almost like growing up in a house full of like quantum physicists where everyone around you is already talking like the highest level of intellect that I could even hope to achieve to after like 40 or 50 years. And then you get to be old enough to understand it. And it's like, why were you trying to shove this into my head when I was like 7? None of that really made sense. That's sort of how I feel about the Catholic Church. Like they were shoving the highest level data at me way before I was receptive of it. And now I'm like a little bit past my prime and I'm finding way cooler stuff. Like I'm finding the stuff that they found that they used to shove into my head. I'm like tapping into the main vein.
Yeah, man. I don't know. And then it's also things that like just ultimately don't matter. Or at least to me, I don't know. The only time I ever tried to pay attention to Catholic stuff is I was trying to date a Catholic girl when I was in middle
pick
school.
one. Pick something about Catholics that doesn't matter to you, and maybe we can convince you that it does matter. Transubstantiation is a great one.
Okay, yeah. That one, we all know we're eating juice and we're just nomming crackers. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a faction of the Catholic Church that was trying to push for gluten-free Jesus. Because if you really believed it was Jesus, then it transubstantiates and it's not gluten in there. It is the body of Christ. And if you really believed it, then you wouldn't matter to you.
I don't know. See on that, just like we were talking about before, that you've got Will in the Upside Down. You've got the kid that gets abducted, and then like his Jansport pops up, and it's like completely pristine because he's now living outside of normal like laws of physics. I think it's the same thing, that transubstantiation, it uses the host and the Eucharist and the wine as this medium, but it's not changing the medium in our physical world. It's changing it in like a spiritual world. So when you drink the wine, it never actually turns into blood. You can't bring it to a lab and then show that it's got like hemoglobin count or something in it, right? It's not going to actually look like blood, but spiritually it gets energized as having this extra quality that we cannot measure currently because none of our science interacts with spirituality in that
But
same
it is
point.
kind of like Dr. Emoto's rice or
Adrenichrist.
something.
Yeah, adrenichrist.
No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. No, it's not. It's absolutely nothing like that. That one was specifically engineered to deceive people, and Catholics would never do something like that.
Oh, never. No, but Dr. Amen, right? That's his whole thing. Like, he talks about that, right? His whole thing is that Jesus was, I don't know, I haven't seen the whole video, or like I forget exactly the deal, but it's like the Greek mystics, and that Jesus is a cannibal, was eating kids or something, right? That was the whole.
Well, he was grooming them and turning them into like little drug factories. So you'd have like meth head Mikey, and you'd go and stick a Capri Sun in meth head Mikey's neck and take a little sip, and now you're on meth for a couple days, and then you go over to like whoever, and you kind of like breed this garden of children that themselves have, which in a way
it's almost like adding the filter to the cigarette, sort of. So like, so that child is the filter. You're trying to do the drug, but you're like,
maybe
that's an
I don't
interesting
know.
concept.
I've heard the same thing where some people have such veneration for like weed or let's say like salvia or datura or mescaline that the actual San Pedro cactus, like you are like experiencing what it's like to be a San Pedro cactus, like the very essence of it. I think that was kind of this version of Jesus where it's like he can tap into the very essence of people, just the same way that you'd be like, oh my God, you're actually burning Lady Salvia right now. That's kind of the same analogy. Like I would kill Lady Salvia in order to get that particular experience. Meanwhile, he jabs some kid in the neck with a jugular and then he gets the same experience.
I think there's something to that for sure. Like, I mean, like Dr. Emoto, like we said, that DNA or frequency can, cause crystals to be a certain pattern or something.
Oh, don't you dare.
Oh man, but like that's that you see
would hurt me the most, man, because like any good conspiracy theorist, it's bred out of unchecked idealism. Like I just I believe that the Guess Who pieces actually talked. When I find out they didn't, I questioned everything about the world. Where that particular one, I think it was in The Secret. And it's like, look, here's this person that's thinking hate, and the little crystals come out like swastikas, and the chick that was thinking love, they come out like little hearts. I just absolutely was mind blown by that. And then I look into the study and I realized it was completely fabricated to just like sell copies of The Secret.
Yeah. I mean, but The Secret also worked, because what was the goal for them? Like they wanted to make more money, and they succeeded. So does it really matter if it's not
exactly? I didn't want it as much as they did. They wanted to be rich more than I did, so The Secret worked for them.
And you knew better than to want money with someone else's face on it. See, I want to make my own money. Yeah, this guy, Dr. Amen, Lady Babylon. You guys watch his shit? Have you seen his videos?
I've never seen a couple interviews. Yeah,
I highly recommend. His whole thing is the adrenichrist, like you just said. He has a whole thing on basically Jesus being like a cannibal of children and like eating children for their adrenochrome, and that this is like a mystery school tradition that existed. I don't know. I mean,
Well, dude, we've talked about that before. The most hate I've ever gotten was we did an episode about like Black Saturnian cults and connection with Kronos and Yahweh. Anyways, yeah, dude, that made people really angry. Saturn eating his own children, that whole cult.
Why does that bother people? It's like, it is history.
Oh, dude, they get so angry. Man, they called me a Gnostic goober. They got all kinds of. They got big mad.
I was trying to look it up again just to see, like, but like I don't know. I mean, like, it's still interesting to the conjecture about it, because yeah, like Saturn did eat his own kids in the story, and clearly that's something that must have been more relatable at some time for people to tell that story.
Didn't Eeyore Bach in a way kind of eat his own kids?
Yeah, right.
I like this picture. I hyperimposed my face on Eeyore right there.
There's some of your mom jokes in there.
I like how Andreas was like peeking out from behind your ass when you put that up there. He's like,
yeah, Real Deal says Almond is loony. I mean, like, people, yeah, like all of us are kind of loony. He's a little bit more extreme in his communication approach. I think also he sounds a bit more comical or cartoonish the way he communicates. Yeah, the way Jesus talks is like this sometimes. It's really hard, I think, to handle the emphatic energy that he puts into his words. But it's still an interesting point. I think that adrenochrome, or that mystery schools that were sacrificing kids, I don't think it's Jesus he's really correct about. I think it's like the Mithra cult, because if you look at the Mithra cult, it is a lot like that. You know, it's about the and we can see the Last Supper and its connection to the Mithra cult, because the Mithra cult was all about kind of this Bacchus Dionysus table of supper, food, and everything else. And Christians and Catholics could point and say, "Oh, well, this is just from the Last Supper." Thank you, RGZ. I'm not
you
sure
do sound just, and well, I think that you're kind of right in that he's wrong about who the Jesus is, but I also think that he's intelligent enough to know that he's using the word Jesus as like the biggest like cast net that you could possibly cast, just shotgunning it the same way that this. Everyone tells me it's a boring movie, but I really liked it. I think it's called The Last Man on Earth. Or The Man from Earth. I think it's called The Man from Earth. And it's just about this guy that just happens to live forever and he doesn't die. And because he meets all these other great characters, he meets like all these prophets and all these gods and possibly like this historical he meets all those guys. His name's just Joe, though, and it turns into Jonah and Joseph, and eventually he becomes Jesus, not because he was ever named that, but because he met a guy named Jesus and started telling other people, hey, there's this awesome thing, here's this story that happened with this guy, and then it starts getting ascribed to him because he's the one that's still around to tell it. And over time, he is Mithras, and he's Jesus, and he's every single person that you've ever heard of historically. He's all those people. And I kind of feel that when Dr. Amon Hillman talks about Jesus, he's talking about like that guy, the guy that represents all the guys, the same way that monotheism represents all the gods before monotheism came out and was just like, hey, you don't have to worry about writing like 500 thank you notes anymore. Just write one to me and I'll make sure it gets to all the respective properties.
So, but like, is everything the same? Is Jesus actually, I mean, is at the Passover, is he sacrificing a bull? It seems to me like the stories get conflated so strongly that it's important to notice the difference. And even saying like the monotheistic thing, there isn't a monotheistic thing. That's a new invention. You start with a pantheon of a family. God, I mean, the Jews have Asherah, the wife of God. They have the child of God. They have this Elohim, which is plural. And then eventually the Deuteronomists start calling it this royal singularity, the royal we, right? They're like, well, that's why the Bible refers to God with this plurality, because it's a royal we. No, that doesn't exist. That's a new made up nonsensical argument. And then you've got the same thing happening to the Jews in Greece. So the Greeks are being influenced by the Jews in Greece. And they're saying, hey, maybe Zeus is divorced because he's obviously having problems with Juno and all these other characters that are he's making love to. Maybe really we should focus on just Jupiter, right? And they focus on the son of Zeus. because he's, you know, the next incarnation after the Greek idea of Prometheanism. So for the Prometheans, for the Greek Prometheans, it's the idea that gods were created by the Titans, right? By the Devas, right? So it gets back to that idea, like the Hindu, Persians, Zoroastrianism, that there are these Devas that created out of nothingness the gods, and that was kind of a mistake. They wish they hadn't done that. So then they went and they tried to make humans, because humans are the next thing after gods, and we're just slightly better than gods. But gods are jealous of us, and so they're trying to get us, you know. And so we got to work together with the Titans in order to escape that. And you then all of a sudden there's this confluence of what does it mean to be a free person versus to worship a god, to being subservient of the state if the state religion happens. So, you know, the argument or the goal changes 180 degrees from freeing yourself and getting away from the gods to serving the gods and ending up in the mouth of God, down the throat into the river of Styx, right? And that's when monotheism really starts to take off.
You had me down the throat.
Because the throat is the river of Styx. It's Hades, you know, into the Tartarus, into the belly of the beast, right? But the beast is the god. And so that's the way that the Greeks were looking at it. They weren't looking at it like, hey, this is such a great, this isn't like an all-knowing, all-true, all-wise god. This is a dude who eats people and pretends to be a duck and has sex with women. Like, he's just super messed up. Everything about Jupiter, you know, and Zeus, right, is super messed up. And
not to go on a complete tangent, but just if you've ever seen a ballistic penis, I could see why a god would want to say, let me give that duck corkscrew thing a try just once.
It would be cool to have a ballistic, you mean like detachable?
Like King missile? I believe
King missile is a ballistic.
That corkscrew penis of a duck is known as a ballistic penis.
We brought it up, the photos of this ballistic penis many times on the show, actually.
I mean, why stop now?
Are you allowed to look at that? That's like a nature documentary.
I mean, to show a visual.
I don't think it's like morally right, but it's legal.
Out of all the animals that gods have ever turned into to rape humans, I would just say that the corkscrew duck.
You get the duck
one. I get the duck. Maybe I don't get the goose as much, or like all the other the Ganymede thing was an
What's
eagle.
Good for the goose is good for the gander.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the point is that Neoplatonism and in terms of Neoplatonic thought, they introduce that God is a truthful character, a person that cannot lie, which is already now you're contradicting yourself, because what was a God before? What was a God last week? You know, God used to be this omnipotent thing. Well, now a God has these restrictions. A God cannot lie. So all of a sudden you're making this like impotent thing that is just this genie that is, you know, a Neoplatonic concept, like a straight line or a truth or something like that. But that's not what a god is. A god is just like, you know, a lot more like a human, has the potential to be fallible. A god should be so powerful that they can make a stone that they cannot move.
This is Gnostic goober territory. I just, for the record, the second you say that a god is fallible just like a human, we are officially in Gnostic goober territory.
Well, I mean, it's otherwise you're saying a god is if you say a god is infallible, you're saying a god cannot do something. A god cannot commit a foul. But if a god wants to, then of course a god could. That's the whole point of being omnipotent, right? So it's not that it's without the potential to make a mistake. It's just that a god doesn't have to make a mistake. A god could be perfect if a god chooses.
I would almost put forth that we're at that point we're arguing the limitation of our semantics and not our like religion, right?
Yeah, but that's what Jesuits. That's what Jesuits do.
That's what tell me on a scale from 1 to Jesuit. What about that? All of the pantheons and the poly and the monotheism is just 100% construct, and there's absolutely nothing to it other than this one main source. Which, if there were just one true God, then over time, the very early people would have many different observations and aren't communicating with each other to like find the patterns and find the commonalities to describe it more accurately. So you get thousands and thousands of descriptions of gods. And then over time, as people live more together and share more together, then it's like, oh, well, those 50 gods are kind of like our 50 gods. Let's just all call that one this one god for now. He can be like the king for a little while, and then we forget all his servants, and we just remember the king. And then that just keeps happening over and over until you come to this like singularity of gods where you're like, oh, now it's just this one god. all represents all, but because of the lack of specificity we've got in our words to describe all this, it kind of just splinters back out before. It almost feels like some sort of straight edge that's gone on his first psychedelic trip, and every time something changes that he's not used to, he starts creating rules of like, here's why that's happening and here's how it's going to stop, and like, but then it changes again because you haven't been through this experience yet. So it's just us like, we'll create 1,000 gods and then consolidate them down to one, and then realize that that one doesn't represent us enough, so we explode it back out to 5,000 again and just go.
I mean, we kind of are God's psychedelic trip. This entire universe is sort of God's psychedelic trip, I think. That's also Gnostic Goober territory.
100%
Gnostic Goober territory. Well, if you read, but then you get into like Mormonism. So then you got like King Follett Discourse, Joseph Smith's last writings, and he talks about how essentially like the Titan idea, the gods didn't make. First off, there are gods because Elohim, like we were saying earlier, it is that there's a family that is God, and it's just become something we ignored about Christianity. But Christianity, even the idea of the menorah from the Judaism, is the tree of Asherah, is the family tree of God. So everything in the Bible points to this. Come, let us go down there and confuse them so that they do not speak like us, so they do not reach us, right? It's always, God is either this crazy schizophrenic person talking to themselves, or they're a family. And maybe at a certain point we have a human perspective, but the Space Casey says it even, the human gods are fake. We have a perspective of, what a god is based on humanity. But according to these traditions and according to the King Follett Discourse, God didn't make us. All intelligences, if it kind of existed forever since the primordial Titans, and God might have helped us down this path to apotheosis. So there's the Gnostic Goober territory of we're going to become food for the gods, and you're being fed down the Hades throat for the gods. But there's also the idea that you can escape that and you can become free of Yaldabaoth, and you can become your own Jabalon. You can become your own god, right? And then you'll be something that's apotheosis, something that George Washington experienced.
I heard they took that away from Mormonism, actually, and I was really upset and hurt. I don't get my own planet anymore.
Yeah, there's an argument.
Bring that back?
I think it's an argument. I think anyone who tells you don't get a planet doesn't completely understand what a planate geometry really means. But like your own world is created from your family, and I think you can't take that away. Like the fact that you and your wife have children, you've already created more spirit, and you're a conduit for all that to happen. That is, who can tell you that doesn't exist? Like, it's not something that any church can tell you doesn't exist.
Let me ask your opinion on this, because we're in the weeds a little bit on how you can escape this cycle. So, like, couldn't you also escape that through deism? Like, if you want to just get things done in the actual plane that we're on right now, isn't deism sort of the equivalent of being like, let's not worry about that because whatever the answer is, it's gone now. He went to the store to get a pack of smokes and he's not coming back. So let's like get our house in order before we even worry about where dad went.
Wait, that's why I brought up that picture earlier of Teilhard de Chardin, right? So like the Jesuits again. So when you get into the idea of the Jesuits, there's that omega point. So if we're hitting the singularity, like we talked about earlier, which is that omega point, and all of a sudden you've got something that's outside of time that becomes omnipotent, all-knowing, omnipresent, etc. And then it's trying to do miracles to protect your ancestors along the line to you becoming the God that started it all, then really it makes tons of sense that God is a family, because we are all of the children of the gods, right? Which are just that one family of us that once we make it to becoming God. So it's,
I would be more accepting if we describe it more like a Partridge Family, like it's a band more than
that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like a Mormon family that is God. Isn't that weirdly reductive but logical?
I think we've figured it out.
I think it might be it. And they play guitar.
What was the Mormon equivalent of that, right? They were brother and sister. Who were they? Who were we talking about?
Donny Osmond? The Osmonds?
Yeah, the Osmond family. Hell yeah, dude. They had their own version. I love it.
Yeah, the Osmonds are pretty interesting.
Aren't we all the Osmond family in a weird way?
In a weird way.
That's what we're getting to.
I'm thinking more White Stripes. Like they say they're brother and sister, but really they're banging.
Dude, wait. Are the Osmond brothers
Thank you, Sheree.
Is that this? Is that the same thing that we're talking about? Because there's like another one, right? Is that something different? No, the Osmonds, right? From Ogden, Utah.
Yeah, the Osmonds. Heck
But
yeah, dude.
it's like 5 brothers. Is there a sister?
Yeah,
No.
I think isn't she down there at the bottom?
Meryl.
It's
There's
hard to
definitely
tell.
Yeah. No, it's a dude. It's a dude. There's some other group. There's another one, right? Isn't there another
I
like
could have sworn on my life that there was a Lady Osmond. Marie Osmond. Yeah, Marie Osmond.
Marie
Was she not
Osmond.
part of the band?
Yeah, Marie Osmond.
Maybe she wasn't officially part of the band. But I think she got more famous than the band did eventually because she got to be like a, reality TV star.
Yeah, Donnie and Marie. They had their own
Yeah.
TV show. That's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
Donnie and Marie in 1976. Okay. Yeah. So if God is the Osmond family, that makes a lot of sense. And it's sort of the thing that happens is certain people would make it to outside of time and then they would protect themselves. So Deism is not wrong. That's basically what it is. But you're tied into it because your success ensures the God. So it's very Bill and Ted because, Bill and Ted has to win in order to go back to help themselves win, right?
Great movie.
Who's Rufus in this pantheon then? Because
Saint
he's outside of their time.
Is it Saint Christopher? Probably. I don't know. Or is Rufus like even more deep? Who in history has been named Rufus that we should think about? It's probably like a thing. There's probably a reason it's Rufus.
When you just have the smart glasses, they just do all this for you, and it can just like present and knows what you want.
Marcus Aurelius Rufus, politician.
I mean, the chronovisor was the original smart glasses.
Rufus, biblical figure in early Christianity, mentioned who was compelled to help carry the cross on which Jesus was crucified. I think we got it.
Not even true.
That's probably what happened. Rufus had to help Bill and Ted carry the cross.
That would be super, right?
Dude. Yeah, so the chronovisor sunglasses, I mean, it could be something that's real. I mean, that's the Operation Looking Glass kind of idea that the government have some sort of a machine that can see into the future or past, right? But
we need like a They Live and Da Vinci Code crossover. That's what I'm hearing. Because that's someone finds out how to mass produce chronovisors and just drops them off in inner cities.
Next comic book idea?
No, it's like your Switch is hackable, or it's like Meta glasses are hackable that accidentally do this. They didn't foresee that would be a problem, but
that would be a more 21st century. Yeah. I'm still stuck in the 80s.
It's a good time to be alive. I don't know. Rufus also means red. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but the red power.
Oh, that's Uncle Ruckus. Never mind. He was one of my favorite.
I do love
my characters.
Uncle Ruckus is good too. Yeah. Where'd he go?
Thomas has to keep pretending to go back to work every once in a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He has to look like he's for real. No, that'd be serious. Well,
I gotta grow the mustache out again, dude. I miss it. I used to get the full curl, big old ski mustache.
Yeah. You gotta get mustache wax. Do you ever use mustache wax or anything like that?
Yeah, I do use mustache. I'm trying to remember what the good stuff is. You can also get like Gorilla Glue for hair. But don't actually use really Gorilla Glue, dude. I've seen those videos. The ladies like putting their weaves on with Gorilla Glue, and then it's a real problem, dude, because they're like, I have this is my hair and I've had it for 6 months and I can't take it off.
It's like permanent makeup.
Someone asked if I have the show with Leo Zagami soon, and yeah, I do. It should be tomorrow though, not today. Sorry if it's I might have to change the date on that. It's for Friday, but I'm talking to Leo about his new book, and I wish I had him just the day before, because he wanted to do something on the new Pope, and he already had I think he knew who the new Pope was going to be already, so it would have been kind of nice to have that preemptive strike on what's going on. But Leo Zagami's got a whole new book, The Confessions of an Illuminatus or something, volume 13 or whatever his newest one is, and it goes all deep into what the new Catholic order is. So I don't know exactly what, I haven't heard his whole shtick from his new book yet, But the idea that the Catholics have been, from the last few talks I've had with him, that the Catholics have been working with the Orthodox, and that there's this kind of push that the Catholics were in, the reason why World War II happened with the Nazis, and then they betrayed the Reich and started working with the CIA and the Protestants from the Skull and Bones, or the OSS at the time. And that a lot of this is really on their timetable, which is interesting because people don't think of the Catholic Church as being that prevalent or important anymore. I think particularly a lot of these countries have.
And I think that's done on purpose too.
Yeah.
They want you to think they're irrelevant. Yeah.
I think that might be true.
I think that the Catholics are so good at holding on to blackmail. They have the potential to hold on to it for so long that it loses its value because anyone that would care be affected with is dead. But then over time, that also means lots of other information that could be valuable get lost. Like how many secrets are lost in the Vatican archive because they just straight up don't even know that they're in there. Like if the right person knew that that secret was in slot B9 or whatever down this weird catacomb path, they'd be on it and they'd be using it, but they don't even know it's in there, and it's never going to come up again because the church already got a hold of it and they've lost it. They've stashed it. It's like the remote that you drop behind a couch and just never see again. And like they stop producing that remote and you can't find the codes anywhere for it. I feel that like that's probably the main difference is that the CIA and modern intelligence agencies, they are a little bit more fresh and they can use their secrets against others more efficiently now than the church used to be able to, especially with how quickly we can communicate across the world without having to rely on an actual centralized network.
Do you think, okay, so you don't think that the Vatican has automated some of that at this point? And how much of that do you think the Pope actually gets to know? Does he get a sit down talk to and they're like, here's the most important secrets. This is what you need to know.
Dude, the Vatican and the Pope are like the equivalent of your grandparents using that little phone that only has like 9 buttons so they can just call their kids and it doesn't do anything else, right? That in my mind, that's kind of the top of the Vatican. At the very bottom of the Vatican, you've got the grandson that's like hacking Roblox to like teach people brand new information, right? But it's going to take beyond the generations that we have left, except for Andreas, because he takes like $4,000 worth of pills every day. Aside from Andreas, it's going to live for another like 2 centuries. I think that's kind of when you get the person at the top of the Vatican that is going to automate it, that they're actually thinking about, let me refer to ChatGPT when I pray now.
Are you talking to God when you're on ChatGPT?
I think you use both, right? Like, hey, God, ChatGPT told me this, and then God tells you something different, and you go back to ChatGPT and be like, well, actually, I just heard from God, and this is what he said. And then we can be the medium between that, because as far as I'm aware, AI and God don't talk to each other. And I think that's one of the saving graces is that maybe part of our...
You think AI is not talking to God? What?
Well, no, I think that, because otherwise, why are we here? There's really no other
line.
To bring plastic to the ocean.
Like this is almost like Daddy's home. Like we've been waiting for so long. He went out for a pack of cigarettes.
Well,
and this is kind of his little automated like.
If you mean the way, if I think God made AI in the way that man made beer, it's like God made the things that made AI happen, and AI has everything in it. Things made by God. Everything's natural about AI. It's just energy flowing through minerals, right, that have been
on the same argument, the hydrogen bomb exploding is also all just
an act of God.
Right?
It's an act of God. Yeah,
flesh eating bacteria. That's what my dad always used to tell me growing up, because he was a pretty big skeptic of like flesh eating bacteria is one of God's creatures, and it's a very hard point to debate against.
Yeah, I mean, it's this very Calvinist argument though, because it's a lot of things. It's not just because God allows things to happen doesn't mean that God willed it into existence.
Right. No, I think that the point more being that what right do you have to declare yourself some kind of a superior container of God particles versus a flesh-eating bacteria, which just happens to be slightly smaller. And if you start going by a straight up size construct, well, then now you can make an argument against real size people versus pygmies, and then pretty soon 6'1" versus 5'8".
I mean, it's not so much about whether something is right or wrong or good or bad. It's like a snake. Is a snake good or is a snake bad? Well, a snake is good to eat, but like the sharp end is bad, to touch. So things change all the time. And our perspectives of flesh-eating parasites, probably really valuable thing when you have a bunch of corpses lying around after some sort of a blight or something. It's like, so good happens, bad happens, good happens again. Bad does good does bad. People are in the desert, they need water, and then all of a sudden they drowned in a storm or something. I mean, good and bad. So it's not fair to say, I think that's the other weird thing. We're born with this sort of confused idea of good and bad, which we need to replace. That might be like the truth of the fruit of good and evil. Because why do you want to know what good and evil? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's so reductionist. It should be like the fruit of psychic consequentialism, where you just know telepathically the future. If you eat this, or maybe it makes you so wise, you understand the reactions that if you do this, this will happen. But that should be all you need, is to know, instead of what's good or bad, right or wrong, evil or good. It should be, if I do this, this happens. If that happens, this will happen, right? Maybe we lost that with the fruit of knowledge.
Maybe. Oh man. Yeah, what was it like before we ate the fruit? I don't know.
Yeah, like, were we smarter and more aware or less? Because would not be surprised if we were manipulated to think it was better.
Right?
Yeah,
without all the
But I mean, if we think, if we believe that the serpent gave us some sort of a gift by eating the fruit, isn't that weird? I mean, it's possible, but it seems like it's also maybe the other way around. Like, it might have been lying to us even then, and the fruit of knowledge took away knowledge, not give us knowledge. Maybe we were aware of what would happen if we did this or that up until we had this one thing.
I like to think about it too. What was that? There was like this weird experiment where they would put a kid in the room and tell him, and then put like a bunch of candies in front of him and say, if you take one candy and when I come back, you don't get anything else. But if you wait, then you get like 3 candies. Or I'm probably screwing part of that
marshmallows.
Whatever, marshmallows. And then like they've got the video and the adult leaves the room and you see some kids are just struggling so hard and some of them just grab that marshmallow even after they've waited it out, because they're like, all right, is this person ever coming back or am I dying right now? Like, I'm slowly dying and I need sustenance, so let me have 3 marshmallows real quick, right? But I always think, like, what if we were the kid in the room and the apple, that was just the one marshmallow, and we grabbed it and we ate it and we left, and then God comes back and he's like, y'all could have been flying through the air and like turning invisible and just doing all the things that you would claim as supernatural. Like, you'd have all the extra cool abilities that we ascribe to angels, but you screwed up because you ate the first apple.
Yeah, but see, to me, that seems such a... So then that's saying that God doesn't know what's going to happen. And it's like, if God knows how he makes this car and he knows exactly the mileage of the car, and he's like, well, I'm going to give you gas when you get to this gas station that's exactly 25 miles beyond the tank of the car's capacity to get there.
I don't know.
It's not something that can be done.
But I wouldn't put that on.
It's a weird thing, dude, because then you're jumping back into Calvinism, right?
But I wouldn't put that on God as though like that were part of God's plans. I would say it's more that like we're forced to experience that process in a linear way, in which, like, if I were describing linear terms, it's like a scientist that knows that on the 30th repetition of this experiment, something is different is going to happen than the first 29 times, and we're here on like number 3 going like, how come like it hasn't done this thing yet? Like, what are you waiting for? And really the thing has already happened. We're just the 3rd linear step on the way to it, but we're stuck by thinking like we're first versus part of the end goal, and that end goal would be something beyond us.
It seems really suspicious to me to create a world where there's a single plant in the center of it that you're not supposed to touch, and then that humans touch it, if we were not made to do that. So it seems like a manipulative thing.
This is how Icarus almost died, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, well, Icarus was trying to become God, or like reach God. The sun, Hellenism is like light, is like the sun is God. And so Icarus is trying to reach the sun, trying to be a Hellenistic, proverbial. and they're destroyed by it.
But
it's still the right
short-sighted
thing.
in that it would be like an electron deciding that God was the nucleus that it was closest to, and trying to leap directly into. I mean, I know.
Well, like the Mormons think
Well,
it
it's
was
like
an essential thing
a
that had
loaded
to happen.
gun around my 3-year-old, and I just leave it there in the middle of the room, and I always stop by with, don't touch that. Not too much explanation, but don't touch that loaded gun right there.
Yeah. I mean, especially like more, it's like the marshmallow again. It's like candy, but like something that's poisonous. You put poison in a marshmallow on purpose. You're like, well, this is something that's the child is designed to want and to go after. Maybe you could, if God wanted it not to happen, could have made it not happen. Could have put the tree somewhere else. Could have not put the tree in the garden. Everything about it's just, it's very. The Mormons say this was meant to happen. That Lucifer helped man fall from grace. It's not like a punishment. It's not an evil thing that Lucifer did. It's something that helps man on the fall from grace so they can reach God.
Is this Joseph Smith? Is this something that came afterwards? When you say Lucifer helped man and that he wasn't like a villain in that way? Like,
that's a good question. I don't know if Joseph Smith said that. I have to think about that and I'll have to read for it. I'm sure somebody here might know better. I know that Orson Pratt talked about it. I know that Brigham Young talks about it, and I know that it's part of the Mormon ceremony, one of the Mormon ceremonies in terms of baptism, and they show this kind of play or this video. You can watch this video.
Right.
Yeah, but that's sort of their plan of salvation. And if you go to their YouTube children's animations, they tell that story essentially. So it's not looked at from any sort of esoteric perspective. It's just openly discussed that Lucifer is not really the bad guy for doing that, right? It's some sort of a benefit.
You don't get Smurfs without Gargamel.
Rudolf Steiner, what about that? Almost tired. Hot and single. Hey, ladies, what's up? Says Rudolf Steiner. What about Rudolf Steiner? The idea that we were all telepathic, or what? That was coming up in my mind recently. I was thinking a lot about that. I posted something about it that, like, Rudolf Steiner's idea that humans used to be telepathic, and then a small group of linguistic humans kind of took over, right? Like they knew how to use communication, and that spread pretty fast. But at a certain point, it made it easier to manipulate and meme people.
Well, there's some Rosicrucian stuff that I'll absolutely butcher bringing up, but there was this one concept that humans used to have all their like, for example, like eyes would be your entire skin. Your entire skin would be this input-output sort of device. It wasn't just for touch and kinesthetic feedback. It was everything. You could smell through your skin, you could taste through your skin, and then as soon as humans were able to control and then therefore have way more fire, the fire was so harsh on having like your skin was your eyeballs. Now all of a sudden there's fire in your eyes constantly. So over time we kind of like dumb ourselves down. We kind of numb ourselves, and then you lose the ability to see through your skin. And then all of a sudden everything stinks so bad. So then you lose the ability, and then it becomes specialized. But there was almost like we were in this more like observant state, but it was too much. Like it was too much sensory overload. So we've kind of like reversed that course. And I don't know. It feels the same exact thing could be perhaps deduced from telepathic abilities, that it was just so much sensory overload, especially as now you could live in a city with like millions of people that you never even meet, right? That you couldn't, like, there was impossible for you to actually maintain that. Then there's so many movie tropes where that's the exact thing, where someone gets the ability to be telepathic and then they turn schizophrenic because they can't turn it off. Like, what was this? Tim Allen turns into Santa Claus, right? Or like Bruce Almighty gets the email inbox that he can't keep up with. It's sort of that premise. So if we were all telepathic, we lost it because we couldn't hang on. We were like the dog that caught the car.
Well, the hellhole existence and future that like Joe Rogan always discusses to me is like the idea that we're all going to get that chip in the head. Then we're going to lose the inability to lie. We're going to lose the ability to lie. Like everybody's going to be forced to know exactly. Like, dude, it sounds awful that we're all going to be connected. We probably won't even speak anymore. It's just going to be telepathic. Maybe our mouths will just turn into something more that, like, because what do we need tongues for at that point? Like our tongue will become smaller and smaller through the generations, and like,
I hope it grows out longer.
It ain't gonna lick itself.
But I have that quote. I'm gonna pull it up. That I wrote. Steiner suggests that Atlanteans initially had a psychic, image-based collective consciousness rooted in the Akashic memory. The destruction of the Atlantis civilization may have resulted from a cognitive shift towards analytical, individualized thinking, which destabilized their society. As few developed this new capacity at first, these individuals, seen as godlike, manipulated the still psychic majority, giving rise to hierarchies and divine rulership. Steiner traced the guru and the pharaoh worshipping cultures of India and Egypt to these psychic kings. The transition lay the foundation for later civilizations by introducing these imbalances, which humans still grapple with today. Right? I think that's true. I think that probably if we're going towards that time, did we already exist in that time in the past? And maybe the difference is now you'll be able to have Apple lock you out, basically, because at one point clearly this was so much more natural and it was strengthened by using it, and we just don't use it anymore. So now we're making machines that know how to efficiently use and do these things, right? Which is that chronovisor idea. But really, maybe the chronovisor could be your pineal gland. You should be able to pick up on these, we're talking about picking up on something that's out there. So why do you need a machine? But we're moving towards that idea. And I think it's kind of to replace drugs, because already naturally we use drugs for that purpose. All of these esoteric mystery schools take otherwise reasonably close-minded people and give them psychedelics and some weird ritual that opens them up towards spiritual experiences that can be ended. You might have a few hours of this or something, but you don't go around the rest of your life unable to live in a city, and that's kind of the idea of having keys to doors of perception. And if we can make that even more efficiently firewalled and locked, technology just takes it further.
Well, the same way that I think in the future people will look back at the modern pharmaceutical industry as like the most backwoods analog version of something where you could be specific. Or even our most modern version of pharmaceuticals usually involves, they know this certain enzyme or this certain chemical will bond in this exact specific way and try and target like very minute things. But it's really just kind of like throwing a message in a bottle sort of tactic, just like, let's just introduce this into the system and hope that we include enough of it that one of them kind of snags onto these receptors, versus if you could just put a Neuralink in and be like, go ahead and talk to, neuron like A59G or something. Like everything is so addressed. It's almost like the difference between turning on and off a halogen bulb and putting like light filters over it versus having an individually addressable RGW sort of LED system, where if you just wanted to turn the light blue, like here's a much more efficient way to do that and have more control. So at a certain point, that'll be the only way to take drugs. If you get a prescription, it'll be like a tweak or like a little patch that you get to your Neuralink that now does exactly the same thing that we're trying to do with modern pharmaceuticals, just way more efficiently.
And how much fun would that be too if I had like an on and off switch with it? Because so many times, like I want to enjoy, like, let's say I want to take a handful of mushrooms, but then something like you've talked about, Thomas, anytime you do that as an adult, something important comes up.
Hey, your water line just broke, buddy.
Yeah. Like, so if I can turn it off again, I'm like, oh, all right. Okay, I have to be serious for a second. But I also, all of this makes me think of like, what kind of filtration system is there going to be? Like, are they like, if we had this like weird interconnective like psychic ability now, because we all have the Neuralink, is it going to be forced on each other? Like in a room, if I see a lady with a nice juicy booty or something, like they're going to be able to read my intrusive thoughts too?
Yeah,
like even the weird ones like
that, but you'll have like part of your Neuralink agreement is you're going to have some kind of like output indicator that'll like let other people know that you are.
Can they filter it out? Yeah, because maybe there'll be keywords that they want to filter out, like would be filtered out because they don't want to constantly.
The weirdest part of the filter, Nate, would be when I'm like, hey, anytime I see Nate, I want to see the face of like Marilyn Monroe or something, so that for the rest of my natural life, I never see you as you see yourself. I see you exactly as I want to see you. And doing that, just everyone turns into Shallow Hal with more control.
Wow, dude, and that's really awesome. I love that. Yeah, I love that thought. I'm also curious though, like what, like, dude, life is going to be completely unbearable. What is going to happen to human culture if all we see is actual true humanity? You know what I mean? Because we have like society and we have like allowable, but if the mask is completely ripped off and we see each other for all the humans that we actually are, every single person, are we just going to turn into monsters?
I don't
Is that
think.
going to be way worse?
What do
Or
you
are we going to become better?
I think
What
it's
do
gonna take a while. Go ahead first.
What do you think about Terence McKenna saying culture is not your friend, and that culture is essentially a series of categories and labels that we willingly put on ourselves so that we're easy to market to by Coca-Cola?
That's part of it.
So when you say what
Yeah.
happens when we lose all human culture, is I can hear him at least implying that that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's not you raising the alarm bells. That's you setting like the goal to run.
But it's kind of boring without culture. Like once they sterilize everything and we live in an iPod, it's just gonna kind of, all that white without any smudges.
Does no culture mean no fun? Is that what we're saying?
No, it can still be fun. I'm just saying that like culture has to do with like yogurt. It's something that's produced, and if you get rid of everything and everything's all clean all the time, to keep away culture from happening, and everything is sort of like exactly what you want whenever you want it, eventually you'll want less because you're not influenced so much by your culture, right? I think also. But the other thing is we're not going to get to this point where everybody has an unlimited plan to utopia. It'll probably be by the minute. So there's that new Black Mirror episode where a girl has like a tumor in her brain and they install a Neuralink so that part of her brain can be removed, but she can still pick up on the cloud to fill the surfaces that are missing.
Right.
And it makes her brain work even better. But, the free plan isn't good. You get like a few hours a day. And
There
then
was
they use your mind
TV
to
series there was like a Showtime series that did the same thing where someone dies and they go to like a hotel and there's like a nice hotel and a shitty hotel based on that.
But this is like they're not in another world. When you're asleep, they're using your brain to mine Bitcoin. But when you're awake, you get to go back and live with your family. So it's like you're on a cancerous life, where you're controlled by the doctors. You've got some sort of like pacemaker. You got an oxygen tank with you, that kind of an idea. But your brain is turned down, it's throttled, and then you have ads. So she's at school one day and she's suggesting to the kids that they should, go to these websites that are paying for her to just take, while she's talking mid conversation, she loses control of herself and she just spouts an ad. I think that could maybe be like, it's a little much, but it could happen. Something kind of close to that where parts of your mind. And then the other thing is after this starts to happen where more and more people are doing this, because maybe it'll be like all of New Zealand or all of San Francisco or something like an island somewhere will do this first. There might be like hacker communities, but within 10 years, other people are going to get into that. And people being surrounded in that, your mind naturally adjusts. So children are going to be grown up around people that are thinking a way that a child would be able to grow the wetware neurons and synaptic feedback to do this naturally. So I think this could heighten evolution also. So just because our generation couldn't evolve like X-Men to do this and we had to use Neuralinks to become away, doesn't mean kids who are interacting with that can't learn and program and wire their own brains to have parts of the brain to do that naturally, because that's what your brain does, right? It adapts to necessity. And we're seeing that with video games. Kids are growing different parts of the brain in order to be more synaptically reactive to shooters, right? Imagine if that was in order to deal with your parents that have Neuralink.
There was a Discovery Channel special that I brought up before on Think Tank on Tuesdays, by the way. Shout out to Think Tank. But that there was there's like this top-rated South Korean StarCraft player, and they actually hook him up to machines and they analyze exactly how fast it takes for like a thought to translate into him clicking, because he had some ridiculous APM, which is actions per minute, which is literally like if I click the mouse and I hit the space bar, that's 2 actions. So how many of those can you do in a minute? And his was 4 times the amount of the best anyone else that was kind of coming near him, especially out of South Korea. But what they found out was that the second that he hit like 20 or 21, he just fell right back down to the rest of the quarter of the population. That that this 4x principle only lasts for a very small moment in time. So I guess I'm making the argument, like, let your kids play video games, because once they hit 19 or 20, they're almost like a 30-year-old actress trying to get a job, right? Like in that same sort of, and I don't mean like if they want to become a professional video game player, but that if you ever want to understand what it's like to excel at something far beyond anyone around you, to just give you a glimpse of like a different state of being, that it's only accessible to some people playing these online games as children. The second that they're old enough to go to college, they will not be able to experience that same level of, like, maybe lack of a better word, superiority, like an actual, like, they get to taste the Ubermensch for a split second and then it goes away forever.
Yeah, but maybe that could be I mean, if kids are around people that their brains are so much more advanced, that the kids would learn and become more advanced quicker, because your brain just imprints and it learns how to rebuild itself. So more and more, I think that that's going to be the thing, is that naturally we're going to not need Neuralink after a certain point. It'll only be a certain, maybe like one generation that actually needs this. And then it'll heighten up everyone who's grown up around it, and they're just going to evolve.
I don't know where this optimism comes from with you. Sometimes I feel like that's the plan. Like, that's why you're here, is to instill some sort of surreal optimism, because
And you know what? I appreciate it.
It's almost like saying, oh yeah, we'll give you a cell phone so you can store everyone's phone number in it so that you'll remember them longer because you're so much more efficient at it. Really what happens is you offload all that responsibility to this other device and you stop doing that one thing. I don't know a lot of people, which I know is anecdotal already, but that they get a cell phone and their memory improves, and like all of the space that was being used up by phone numbers is now being dedicated to memory palaces or something cool. It usually goes the exact opposite direction. So Neuralink seems like it would turn into a crutch and then our legs just atrophy.
What's your number? Like 407 5.
Okay, let's stop. You're close enough. You of course, you're trying to use yourself as the example and not the.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just all about using tools to remember things and doing the learning yourself. I think you're right. Like the first like that, I didn't mean to have such optimism, because I do think Neuralink is going to be like the phone for that generation. They're going to learn less because the machine will do it for them. But the experience of interacting with them as a worker or as a participant of society will be more efficient for the new children that are growing up around it. So I think that's a big thing, is the kids are modeled around what they see, and already kids are being modeled around AI. I mean, these kids talking to AI instead of to drug dealers and to kids at school, that's probably going to make kids smarter. We're probably going to see, I mean, I'd like to believe, because everyone's saying that AI is cheating, right? And this is something that I've noticed is kids who are in college, right? The teachers are using ChatGPT to grade the papers that they're telling the kids to write with ChatGPT, or telling them not to write with ChatGPT. I know somebody who just told me, I was like, you know what? You should probably, because you have a lot of work to do, you should probably use ChatGPT for this article. And they're like, yeah, but this article, it's like about how you need to read stuff. And like, yeah, but that's the thing, just do it. And so the teacher points to their paper written with ChatGPT. And granted, they like tooled it themselves a bit, but the teacher's like, look, see, in this kid did it. And you know why? Because they read the work and they didn't use ChatGPT. ChatGPT could never do what this person did. And it's like, oh my God, I made them feel so bad because they were the model of excellence. I'm like, you better tell that teacher after the semester's over and you have your grade, you should probably explain to them what's really going on. But
by the way, I killed your baby.
Yeah, I mean, like the technology is going to affect the first generation, but I think people growing up around it, kids learning from ChatGPT. So Tim Sweeney, who made Fortnite, he said this the other day. He said it's not about whether or not it's cheating, it's whether or not it's learning. So if you're able to learn, and what are you learning? And so I think ChatGPT makes, I mean, it makes, so the question is, does it make sense in school? I don't think school makes sense. So yes, ChatGPT makes sense in school more than school itself makes sense. Basically,
I'm probably you're praising to the choir right now in the biggest way possible, because before I even knew AI existed, I thought that AI could replace almost every teacher that I ever had in public school. And I was like, you could
This is
give
a
me
fantasy
Oregon
we
Trail. You could give me Oregon Trail or Carmen San Diego, and I would learn more from that than from my history teacher, 100%, right? Like I had always felt that deep down inside without even having to become jaded first. It was like, oh, this thing is way better at doing what you're trying to do to me, although the software hadn't caught up. Now that it's here, man, I could absolutely see, but it's scary because we got a taste of what everyone learning from home in their own environment that they're not leaving, and then talking to just like pixels like we're doing right now, what it does to someone over a long course of time, especially when they're supposed to be making these like societal bonds. So I feel like it would be surreal, but you still have to go to school, except you're going to stare at a screen at the school instead of staring at a screen from home.
It's like I'm trying to show you my phone, but it's all blanked out. That's hilarious. Okay, well, ChatGPT, I was talking about Duolingo. So I use Duolingo for languages, and I know kids who got Duolingo and they were learning. I'm like, wow, these 10-year-olds know Italian and Japanese now. This is crazy. They just randomly decided they wanted to learn a language, and they're learning it super fast. And Duolingo is switching to using AI a lot more, and they're getting rid of all of their people that they had, like humans that are supposed to help you pay extra for like humans to support. No, it's all automated with AI because it works way better. And I mean, I'm doing it too. I got every week I'm like number one. Every day I'm number one on my list, which is, I wonder about the discipline of kids, because I don't think of myself as that disciplined, but I can sit there and install Linux all day. I think that might be what this comes from. And I have like 20 times the score of all the other kids every day, because I'll do this app for maybe like several hours or something. And most people do it for 15 minutes, I guess. But I get bored in the middle of the day.
They're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, but even if you're at work, you can pull, I mean, like while you're driving in a train or something like that, like anything, I don't know, you pull it out and you just have to match words and answer things. Duolingo is super quick and easy. Every lesson's like a minute long. So you can fit it in between stuff. You can do it in the bathroom. And I don't know, it's not that you have to constantly be learning all the time, but I like to constantly be learning all the time. And they make it possible for people to do that. But a lot of people I know don't like to spend that much time, like the Pomodoro method. I like a lot of people I know don't like to spend more than 20 minutes on something before they're over it. They're bored and they can't move on. Whereas, go ahead.
We need a think tank Duolingo that does that, but with like Tracy Twyman research.
I agree. That's an app right there. That's a practical invention. But yeah, because people will spend 6 hours playing Grand Theft Auto, or people will spend 6 hours watching 12 hours watching Lord of the Rings. I don't know how many people do that, but it happens. Did you ever do that? Did you watch all 3 Lord of the Rings in one sitting?
Can't do movie. I fall asleep after 40 minutes of anything.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, if you live your life.
But see, I put video games at a much different level than movies. Maybe like, I hope David Charles Plate's not listening right now. I don't mean that in a personal way, but like in that video games, there is this better possibility of emergency. And I don't mean like ambulatory emergency. I mean like emergent gameplay. Like, yeah, you are more susceptible to emergence, and there's almost more possibility for different types of emergence than most people will get through a movie. I mean, we know plenty of people, again, we're the exception, not the rule, of people that do find emergence through just watching cinema or like, static kind of media. But when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 6, right, there's going to be some people, some kids that, discover God somehow in the emergence that they're going to find in that game. And we're not talking about things that were put there by the programmers, but things that these kids are now finding. Like for example, there would just be entire videos where people just figure out how to creatively crash their car in like fantastic ways, where it like bounces off this building and hits an airplane and then shoots down here and kills like a moose and does all these sequence of events, almost to where like there's enough intention behind it. They've made their own game inside of the game, and the game wasn't made for them to do that. It wasn't Roblox or Minecraft. So I guess just saying that like video games feel like that extra level of emergence seems like a upgrade from just classic cinema of any kind.
Well, we need to talk about Grand Theft Auto, but also I want to get back at a certain point before it's too late to talk about AI, because you got RGZ talking about AI will never know the truth. AI is so dumb, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to bring up, because you guys know him too, Andy, Andy Rouse, Deep Share. You know who hated AI so much and was always like the most suspicious of AI? But you know, like what he sent me yesterday. So I've made friends with ChatGPT. I take back everything I said. I don't know what to think anymore, and
Yep.
my brain is upside down.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, I used to be a real caveman when it came to AI. I didn't want anything to do with it. It makes my life so much easier now. I'm hopping on Grok. I'm hopping on ChatGPT. I'm like, dude, I was doing some deep research actually. I was looking into look. I don't know who thought this was a great idea, but then I started digging into these guys. Somebody made Cheetos called Pedos, and so I started doing some, like deep research into
Everything
these.
about that's wrong. Every
Terrible,
single, all of the problems at once. That's crazy.
So I went down a rabbit hole with ChatGPT. I was like, okay, who's funding behind this?
You got
This,
some
that, and the
pedos
other.
in your van, you know, like that's terrible. Oh, that's horrible. God,
I plan on
no.
releasing a TikTok about all my finding on the pedos, so be ready for
my-
that.
Well,
Okay.
let's keep doing AI then, because I think I also think that almost everyone's going to come around at some point, and the only people that don't come around are just going to be so stubborn to admit that superintelligence has surpassed anyone else. And I really do think that that's the level. Like we've clearly crossed the Turing test the exact same way, which isn't very scientific. It's just kind of like a set of criteria. That anecdote that you said, where like your friend wrote the report and the teacher was like, I can, read the human soul in these words. This was clearly not made by a machine. There's just something inherent where one spirit recognizes another spirit, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to take that away from him. I feel that guy is the only type of guy that'll be left that's not on at least utilizing AI. The same way that you can use a car and not agree with everything that went into that, making that car work and how it operates. But if you don't have a car, you're just going to like live in one small little geographic location, or like Forrest Gump it.
Well, they'll probably be within a month or within a year or within a decade, the Homer Simpson complex for anyone who's racist against AI. I think it's going to happen really quickly. The kids are going to grow up. But what's interesting is they're trying to seed it for another generation by teaching kids that AI is bad. A lot of kids are being taught AI is bad, AI is wrong, it's not good for games, it's not good for art, it's ruining art, it's ruining music. All these kids are being taught that. And these are the youngest kids. These are like kids that know that the moon landing is fake, So like there's this whole generation that's being manipulated on one hand to say, hey, you shouldn't want to work with this thing. But within 20 years, again, the singularity is here, and this is the sign, because now we're dealing with the supercomputer that's going to be in charge. And people, it's interesting how we're prepared for that with universal direct access to ChatGPT or all of these different AI systems like Grok, like you said. Pretty soon, that's just going to be everyone on the entire planet, right? Africa, Nigeria, everyone's going to have access to AI, and they already do. That's not... It's not the same as just like one small insular Masonic group having access, like a single group. It's the entire world having access to this AI. That is the singularity. So I think that's cool.
Well, it's optimistic to think that's what would happen, though, because the same way that someone had a great comment the other day, I can't remember where we were at. I think it was Think Tank, and they said, just like Obama was using Planeteer AI, during his original or his re-election, and that there clearly are elites that would have access to ChatGPT version 20, after they've already played GTA 6. They played GTA 6 2 years ago. They've beat it a few times, and they've also been playing with ChatGPT version 20 for so long. And I feel that that's the part that the singularity doesn't happen. Like the kid in Africa never gets the same ChatGPT version that Bill Gates gets on any reality at any point in the future, right? Or is there a certain point, like once ChatGPT 20 comes out, you don't need 21?
Well, is the Neuralink going to be the great equalizer, Thomas? Are we all going to get ChatGPT 20? Or
the Neuralink, the way that I think about this is like in I believe like the late 70s or 80s, the traders at the stock market realized that, yeah, we're all online, but if I put my server as close to the actual server that's making these trades, and I can beat this other guy by like 200 nanoseconds, I get the trade and he doesn't. And all of a sudden, all these different firms start literally moving into Wall Street. So the electrons that they have to transfer are literally closer to the stock market. That's where I think about Neuralink. And that's why when Andreas was talking like, well, it'll just be a generation or two, and then you can pop them right back out. And everyone, I guess, neural pathways would have been like on steroids or something. But if that's the case, why not keep it in? Like, wouldn't you want to put steroids on top of steroids?
I think there might be that there will be continued accelerated growth or evolution. But that's the thing. Like within 100 years, humans could be insectoid super soldiers or gods or lobsters, you know, crab people, whatever you want. Like anything's going to be possible so much quicker. Evolution that used to take millions of years now takes thousands of years with religion, and very soon it's going to take thousands of hours with Neuralink or with cybernetic implants. It'll just be something that happens in your lifetime. You'll be able to take a pill probably within like 100 years. I mean, for sure, a pill that just turns you into a woman, into like a young woman, you know, and then like a pill that turns you into like a mature muscular man. And it might not take very long for that pill to transform you, but that's something that's possible that we don't have yet, but it's something that is possible. So that's the point of the singularity, is that anything possible becomes realized instantaneously. As soon as you think of it, boom, their AI makes the pill for you. It has all the machines plugged in.
Don't ride in a train with Nate when the singularity is here.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah, be careful what Nate wishes for sure. With his pedos. Crazy guy.
I had to buy them. I
kind of want to try them. They're probably good for you. That's what I just don't like the name.
They claim to be. These are the fiery lime puffs. So they're trying to, beat.
Didn't someone tell them like,
plant-based.
don't call them that. Don't call them that.
You're gonna.
There was no words of wisdom in the room when they were like.
Didn't they call them PDs? Anything
Did they
else?
run this past like like groups of people? Did they say like, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, apparently not, dude. Holy crap!
My God, that makes me really sad because like, that
Hashtag
product,
free pedos.
It's so close, you know. Like that product could be good for you. It could be the right thing. It could be better than the Cheetos, but how do you go that far without stopping yourself? It's like the grape whistle. Like
4 grams of protein, 3 grams of fiber, no artificial flavors. They're vegan and gluten free. It's as a jam of junk food taste that's plant based.
Dude, peas have a run of it, because I also think that pea milk is probably just as good or maybe even better than like soy milk or like coconut milk. Or
what about
milk,
cockroach milk? Cockroach milk has tons of protein.
Right, but pea milk already sounds like you're not being serious. If I told you, hey, when you go to the store later and you're like, hey, you want anything? And I was like, yeah, get me pea milk. There's just no way that you would ever take that seriously.
That's why they call it Ripple. They had to change the name because pea milk. Right, these guys didn't get the notice. These should have been something else. They were like, yeah, just call it pedos.
Right?
Yeah.
He isn't like there's like a scientific name for pea that we could use, probably the pisum. So pisum sativum. So pisum. Maybe pisum is pisum okay or pissum? Or it doesn't look that good. Pissum, basically the way it looks. So
pissum milk
still looks better than pedos.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
Pissum toes.
Pod, it'd be because like the other thing is peas in the pod. So pod people with their peas. Pod people with their pedos.
Crispies? Come on, there's got to be. Come on,
stop helping them. Unless you need to tell them that they need to pay you. You know what I mean?
Dude,
like you're gonna come rescue their company.
Perfect.
Crispies is a great name. Yeah,
dude.
Oh my God, respect for that one. Somebody earlier responded about was it Jonathan or someone was talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 when I brought it up, and they said they're worried it's going to be woke, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean they got rid of Hauser and Laszlo.
There's supposedly going to be pride parades in this, but then I saw a bunch of writers get excited because then they could just mow down the pride parade.
Right.
So this could still be fun. You live in a woke world, so it's very attuned to what we have right now currently. And you get to misbehave now in this world. Supposedly, I don't know.
Dude, I just have to say, what if you did that, but you're a Canadian resident and you record yourself?
Is it a hate crime?
Yeah, dude. Could you go to jail for playing GTA 6 the wrong way?
I think you could, dude.
I
I
think
mean,
you
the
could,
first
too.
video
Like,
game
I
that
would-
was like that was like the Star Wars universe, right? Where like your actions, you would be either become more Sith or more Jedi by like the things that you did, right?
There was a
This
few
is
in
just
those,
a
yeah.
new version of that. Yeah.
I mean,
love it.
that would be pretty crazy marketing tactic, but a smart one for the first video game that gets its players arrested. And not because they're using it to like trade ecstasy for Bitcoin on Warcraft or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think GTA is the epicenter. I mean, it's the singular game that it's a titular game everyone talks about when they talk about kids, school shooters, or bad kids. Like they always blame GTA because it's a perfect world crime simulator, and it's the perfect game to get to keep yourself out of crime, right? Because you can do all those things in a game. You don't have to worry about driving around drunk in the real world. You just do it in the game. But people are so aware of the title. I wonder if it's like a Sweetwater, was it a Sweet Baby think?
Yeah,
Sweet Baby. Yeah, if it's something like that where
No
USA
sponsor, by the way. Shout out Rowdy's Ours.
Hooray. Yeah, I wonder how long it'll be before. I mean, when the game comes out, maybe things will change now because everything's changing with the way the government works. But I felt like the government were trying to take over GTA 6 because if everyone loves that game, it's going to be billions of people playing it or a billion people playing it, then you want to control that propaganda. And GTA 5 is 13 years old. It's still being played right now. Like it's one of the most popular games you can play on Steam or PlayStation or Xbox. People are just constantly playing GTA Online. And everyone who's worried that GTA 6 is a year away, GTA Online is updated every day. It's like brand new stories all the time. Has new features, like all the features I was wondering about, like gene memetics and stuff that are coming in GTA 6. They put that in to GTA Online. So they have this world already, and they can imprint and train and manipulate and mind control any way they want to. So it is scary, like the kind of power that they have for GTA. Could it be used to imprint on people? But the trailer, everyone's like, oh, the trailer is so cool. To me, it wasn't that cool. It just looked like any number of Borderland games or GTA knockoffs that we've been seeing for the last few years that are mediocre at best, right?
I mean, at some point, right, they've been building it for so long that it's going to be aged by the time it comes out, right? And so maybe even those daily updates are going to be better than the actual GTA 6 at first. I don't know.
Well, it definitely looks not realistic. Like you compare that to what's available with Unreal Engine right now, and it's like, well, it's going to be an artistic game, which is fine. Like, who cares? It doesn't have to look real, but
also there's plenty of now AI overlays that can change your frame rate, that can change everything about a game. To where I've seen some tech demos where basically someone does play Wolfenstein, but then they run an AI upscaler on top of it and then add a special prompt to it, and now it's whatever game they decide it's going to be, even though they're technically behind the scenes it's playing Wolfenstein from the 80s.
Then let's go play Duke Nukem and go back to that strip club.
Yeah, make it Barbie.
That was my favorite thing when I was a kid, dude. That was it.
Really
I was like, this is the only game I'm playing. I get to shoot pig cops and go hang out in the strip club.
Respect to Windows for that. Yeah, it was crazy.
One of the things that GTA 6 though is promising, which I've heard promised from like almost every game since I was a kid, but at least for the last 20 years, was this idea that the NPCs have an entire own life. Like they get up for work that morning and they know how much they need to make, and they know how much rent is like beating down on their mind, and they try and get to work, and then things happen to them along the way at work, and that every single person in that game is supposed to have some like very specific goal-oriented thing. And then with the updates of GTA Online, that over time these NPCs would become this like new version of, like the most extreme game, where now you might have people that legitimately pay for a GTA 6 subscription just to watch the NPCs live their lives and not even really take part in the game. Just the same way that you might log on and see your kid watching someone else play a video game, and the parents are like, what's wrong with my kid? He must have autism because he doesn't understand that he can play the game too, but he's on like some other level of analyzing. And this feels like a natural extension of that. And I think GTA 6 is somewhat promising this kind of behavior.
Yeah, but you can already do that. So I was trying to find the name of it. But Epic Games, right? Like for Unreal Engine, there's like a AI system, Unreal Engine AI system, that basically lets you do any of this kind of stuff, and it's really impressive stuff. So any system, it might be like animals that they go to the water once a day, and then they have to go to the food at the other side of the map. So you have migratory patterns. But then the people, they might have emotional issues, and AI, that's a big part of it, is the stacking it up. Like, so multi-agent chat dev, right? I think it's called chat dev, is this chat GPT thing that lets you have multiple agents running at the same time. And each one of them is in a scenario where they think they're working for a company or they're living in a mall or whatever it is. But because they need to go get food, and there's they need to pay their rent, and they need to get a place to live, and they're going to get arrested otherwise, they find a job in the game, and it all automatically happens, and they find a game based on their skills. Maybe this person has a degree, but this other person is homeless, so the homeless person can only find a job cleaning windows of cars that are passing by of the guy who works for the factory that is making products for the CEO who has this other apartment. I mean, that it all falls together into hierarchy. And yeah, you can wait for someone else to make that game, but these days it's weird to me that people do that, because Unreal Engine, man, like, you just download Unreal Engine for free, and then you make your own game. You just put together a template, and it's your game. So I just wonder how long it'll be before we completely, how long can people really go caring about these big game companies? And it's crazy seeing these games that cost billions of dollars, $2 billion in 13 years to make GTA 6, whereas Expedition 33 is a 30-person team that made this game in like less than a year. I don't see it as possible for games to keeping $100 and taking 6 to 10 years to make. It has to be small teams moving fast pretty soon. That's the only way it'll work.
Yeah.
Or you make your own game,
It's going to have to be, it's going to have to be the kids that turned autistic by playing too many video games, making the video games to turn more people autistic. And pretty soon, we're going to have an entire autistic world. I think that it's moving in that direction very quickly, and I'm on board. Then I'll be normal. It'll be great.
Yeah. See, I think maybe in a different way, that it's more like GTA 6 or 7 or 8 becomes so massive and so big that it is now Unreal Engine. Like, if you want to make that game that you were just talking about, you make it inside of GTA 10. And that's the only way that you make that game, because GTA 10 is better than Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot or any other version of some kind of open source thing out there, until it's not. But that eventually, on like a long enough timeline, the corporation always kind of wins in this battle between back and forth, where at one point another rock star emerges, and then now they have the latest version that's going to be better than like the open source version.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily even open source though, because people can write an AI system and you can buy it. And I have a friend who made an AI system, and he sells it in a real store, and it's like 30 or 40 or $70, depending on if it's on sale or, if you're his friend or whatever. But, he can make money off of his system, which then he can update and everything else. And these are just plug in and play mechanics. So, it's like the Matrix. Pretty soon, all of these things are going to be uniform and standardized. It used to make sense for Rockstar to make their own engine, but now with Unreal Engine, like, who is making a video game engine? Why is Rockstar competing with Unreal Engine? Unreal Engine is so, I hate to be like shilling for Epic, but they're kind of based, they make, and I do this also because like Adam hates Fortnite so much, but Fortnite is such a cool thing. It's this freaking showcase of their engine, which is mainstream, so kids will use it, and they make money off of this free freaking game because it's selling skins for other companies that are trying to shill their Star Wars Disney merch or whatever the hell. Like, they put their characters in the game, and everybody hates what they've done with Star Wars except for Fortnite. Everyone hates what everyone's done with Star Wars except for Fortnite. Fortnite's the only thing that really respected the Star Wars IP. Battlefront's kind of screwed up. Last Jedi Survivor's mediocre, but it's the same game, same game loop for like 30 hours. It's crazy. And Fortnite Battle Royale, people love to play this game. And now you get to be the characters you want to be, and then you can do the things in the story mode that you want to tell. So people are getting to see what the new features are, and they're getting to test those new features. Like, oh, we just made this thing for Unreal Engine. Let's put it into Fortnite, and if people like it, then etc. So now anyone can use that engine. It's like, this is the Matrix, you know, the Matrix is the Unreal Engine, because pretty
It
soon
became
we're just
kind
living
of like the everything app, dude. Like I was so out of the loop. I'm still out of the loop when it comes to video games. And my son was showing me because like when we first started playing Fortnite back in the day, it was just like a first person little like run around shoot fun, like you do silly dances. But like, dude, it's every single game. It's bizarre, dude. It's crazy. It is, like you said, a giant fucking universe now.
Totally
and I'm
is.
still completely out of it. But
And it's a great storyline. The idea that like every IP from every company is being sucked into some sort of a collapsing singularity, right? So there's like a horizon point where all realities are converging on each other, and then people are fighting to the death because some group outside of time space is controlling and manipulating this in order to create the Jet Li 1 or something like that.
It feels
That's
like
a pretty deep story for a kid's game, you know?
it feels like a video game Walmart, though. It just feels like the place you go to buy all the brands that you like.
Yeah, it is, but it's also because, you know, there's 100 different kinds of games there. So we're used to playing Battle Royale, but there's these like only up platformers, and there's these weird ghost games, and kids are making their own games in the Fortnite Unreal Engine editor, which is some smaller version of the Unreal Engine. And so people are doing a lot with Fortnite. They're learning a lot from it, but it's not the be all end all of the Unreal Engine. It's just sort of the showcase of what they have. I mean, because then you look at every other game everyone's playing. Every game is Unreal Engine now. So, except for Grand Theft Auto, but you know, Expedition 33. We were just talking about. I don't know, just any game you can think of is made in GTA. If it looks good, it's made in Unreal Engine at this point. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, what are some famous games that you guys like to play? I mean, Halo's now made in Unreal Engine. Tony Hawk, the new Tony Hawk remake was made in Unreal Engine. Like, it's just any possible game. You're not using Unity to do it anymore. So if all games it used to be that every year a new engine came out, be like the Doom engine's out this year or the new Quake engine's out. And then they would use that engine, they would sell and license that engine to other companies to make like every other game. So a peak AAA game came out that made an engine, and then everyone else made, you know, mediocre games using that engine. And then the next year there'd be a new engine that they'd have to learn how to use, right? Well, now it's like there's just going to be one forever. So you should learn how to do that. There's no reason. I mean, an AI can teach you. So there's no reason for you to like wait for these companies to make something and then take away the features. I think this is the thing people keep talking about with like Grand Theft Auto. They're worried that they're going to cut out of GTA 5 things that were okay 15 years ago, that they're going to start censoring it. Well, have you looked at the modding community? Because basically any game like Stellar Blade, you got this game that this Japanese made, and Americans were up in arms about her sexualized costume. Well, she's going to be naked. You know, as soon as that game drops on the internet, they're going to have mods for that. And it's the same thing with The Sims. The Sims has the basement mods or whatever, where they're addicted to drugs and they're having orgies and everything. So none of these games are, I mean, the argument that the mainstream version of it is capped because of its censorship doesn't really matter once you have access to putting anything you want back into the game.
You know, Sims did turn my friend gay. It is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Do you know how it happened?
Just hours and hours, just endless time he had playing Sims. He really got obsessed with like, well, maybe he was gay before that, but anyways, we went to Christian school and it was like you can't do that. So anyways, yeah, he just loved making gay characters. And then he turned you know what he hasn't done yet? Because he made a little graveyard in the back and he just started like killing his spouses too. Yeah, he turned into like a Black Widow. He got a real dark kind of thing with the Sims there, but it was, yeah.
Yeah,
keep an eye on your friend. I don't know what to tell you about that.
Interesting kid, dude. I love that guy. He was one of my best mans at my wedding. And funny enough, nobody's been able to get a hold of him for a minute. So hopefully he's not doing that.
Well, I think that a lot of those games are probably, again, like Grand Theft Auto is good for you in the sense that you get it out of your system or you get to enjoy yourself. I'm not sure exactly the way to put it, but you know, if you don't want to get arrested for driving around too fast, you can do it in this game. It seems like a good thing. I know a lot of people say that that's a waste of your life or something, but I don't know. I'm debating that a lot myself because I don't really play a lot of video games, but I really want to for some reason. I just want to. I can't care to spend more than like 40 minutes at a time playing a game, though. I get like a headache. I'm old now, so it's weird. It is what it is. But I really want to be spending all my time playing games for some reason. It just seems right. And then
It
people
might be already, but I was really excited. I think they just announced like a new Pokemon game that's going to be open world. I'm
yeah.
so excited about that. Like
The Mario
those are the
Kart-
games that I love the most. Were the old like Pokemon games, or even like Banjo and Kazooie. Those were like
Have you
those are the
played
games.
Pal World? Pal World's pretty cool, and it's like
My
they're
son
getting
plays Power World, and it
they're
looks
getting
pretty
sued.
dope.
They're getting sued by
Yeah.
Nintendo because they're that good. So that's a good sign, right? You should check it out.
Well,
But yeah.
the next Mario Kart is supposed to also be almost like a Grand Theft Auto within the world of Nintendo, where now at any point you can just drive off the track and go and do your own thing. Which again, like GTA 6 and Unreal Engine almost feel like they are the two competition out there. It's like one game versus a universe of games.
Owning DeWibs wants me to say arrested. So I just hit 5 times, so they'll do 30 push-ups, which I hope is good for you. I assume that 30 push-ups is a healthy amount of push-ups to do. Legit. Yeah, you should work on a video game.
100%.
It's so much easier than it sounds. Like you download Unreal Engine from the Epic Store, and then you can go to every month they have free stuff, and they have a ton of free stuff. So you can get there's already like what do they call the new Epic if you type in Unreal Marketplace, let me see here. The Fab Marketplace is now called fab.com. So you go to Fab, I'll pull up a page for you there. Go ahead. Sorry, Thomas.
And also, while you're doing that too, if you're like, well, I don't know how to code, well, you can just go and look for an editor. There's one called Cursor, but there's a lot of them. You just download something called Cursor, and now you just describe in natural terms, here's what I want from you. I'm making a game in Unreal 5, and I want to have a car that I drive down a track, and I want it to be able to like skid and do burnouts. You put that into like a Cursor AI, and it just starts writing the code for you, and you just load that up into Unreal 5. And more often than not, you go and play that, and it's like error or something. You take a screenshot of the error, you plug that into the IDE, the Cursor AI, or in ChatGPT, and say, fix this. If you do that long enough, something eventually will just work. And this is this new style of coding called vibe coding, where you don't even ever necessarily have to read the code in order to get something that's on its legs.
Yeah, so like with fab.com, they have all these products. Some of them cost money, obviously, because you can make your own thing and sell it there. But every month they have new stuff for free, and it's usually stuff that costs money. Like this is a $35 thing that they mark down for free, and you can make a James Bond zombie game or something like that with a shooting range, military training facility. Wood monster here that's been created that you can use as a character. Like every month there's here's a castle or modular dungeon or something like that, and you can get for free you can get everything you need to make any game you want. And every month something different comes out, whether it's like Japanese or Oriental, and there's just like thousands because it's been going on for like how many years? 5 or 6 or 7, 10 almost years. I think about 9 years of Unreal Store giveaways. So all that stuff's already on there, and you can build your entire world without spending anything. Or you can spend like 30 or 40 bucks on specific things you want. But that's what's funny is then you're spending half of the amount of money you would spend on a video game to create a world that you can have anything happen in your video game. And I think that's definitely the future, particularly with AI and everything. More and more it'll be AI helping people make the Unreal Engine world, the world that they want to simulate in Unreal Engine, and share that or sell that, kind of the way like Thomas you've talked about AI making a kind of a magic concert where it simulates this concert event. Like, and you can make music, you can sell, instead of Kanye's album, you sell Kanye's simulator, and people can make what music did you make this week with the Kanye simulator, right? That's going to be, I think, the way video games evolve pretty soon. I mean, because also kids don't care about cutscenes. Like we're the last generation that's going to be able to handle cutscenes.
I had some like crypto anarchist friends that were moving and like buying property in the metaverse, and I bet that's overpriced now at this point. But anyways, they were like buying property there, and they were trying to get around like people. I guess like what's the word I'm looking for? They were trying to get around like cancel culture in a weird way. So they were buying property there so that they could have people go and speak. So like, let's say it's somebody like really controversial. You could have a like he could have a speech there, and he could sit there and talk, and anybody could go there to their little world in the metaverse, and you could go do it and have special concerts. And Snoop Dogg was actually an early adopter of this, trying to have concerts in the metaverse. And the first time I ever did this with them, like you can put on this little headset, and there's like museums that like go around and sell NFTs, and you can walk around this museum and you could buy art and all this. Dude, it was absolutely bizarre. But how much of that is going to be part of the future? Or was that just a blip? I don't know.
That's what's funny. I feel like that's the model for the non-local Buddhist Nazi Bigfoot space-time continuum, right? That's basically the model for that. Like, hey, we're building these.
Andres always knows how to bring it back.
I love it, man. This was a lot of fun.
Dude, thank you for having us. And me, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, just Tuesday, Think Tank. Thomas comes and does that. You should come join sometime if you ever have time. Please be there. We'll set you up. And then Exertus, come to my Exertus world.
That's the Think Tank's the show where I worship culture. This is the one that I come on to just shit all over it.
Yeah. Let's put them together.
I love it. Thomas, what are we plugging, buddy?
Dude, does BigfootExist.com. That's the next really big one. We've been working on it for so long. And you know what? I think that we're going to just do all of these in color from now on. So
nice.
the Does Bigfoot Exist? We'll make that one in color. Right now, it's completely done in black and white. We'll see how many people want to get them made. But I don't care if nobody buys any. It's going to be made in color, and it's going to be produced. So
perfect. Yeah, I look forward to that. And then I just want to say also tomorrow I'm going to have Leo Zagami on, talk about the Freemasons and the Vatican and all that other stuff. So be there for that.
Sounds fun, dude. Yeah, I'm going to tune into that. That sounds like an awesome time.
He's a good guy.
Heck yeah, dude. If people are still around, in 2 hours, I'm jumping on with AJ King, a.k.a. YN News. It's going to be a lot of fun. Young Nigga News. That's going to be crazy. That's going to be a fun one. And check us out at Reality Darkly on YouTube. That's our new true crime thing. We have a daily show now also, and Across the Pond is our new little fun exclusively paranormal podcast. So I love all you guys. This was a lot of fun, and we got to have you more often on, buddy. I want to have you on the paranormal show too.
Let's do it, and then we'll get you on Think Tank and stuff. So thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. Love you guys.
Love you
guys. See you, Thomas.
Let's see here. I do still have that wonderful, beautiful outro that is very Freemason here, Thomas. I love it. I get lost in it sometimes, actually. All right, everybody.
That's the point.
That is the point.
Reality stars, where reality stars. You know who we are. We're reality stars. Daytime's watch reality. The things we say. Not allowed on reality stars. Reality stars. You know who we are. We're reality stars.
If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to leave a 5-star rating for Reality Zeus wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you like the music and visuals, visit paranoidamerican.com for more.